Hello there, and welcome to Master of Horror, where I give you the scariest paranormal true stories that I've ever come by. These are two true scary paranormal Ouija board encounters. Okay, my friend, let's begin.
True paranormal scary story number 1. The Ouija board ghost.
Many people have Ouija boards sitting in their closet, somewhere collecting dust. Most people have never even used a Ouija board. I found out what Ouija boards were when I was 16, and when I asked my parents if we had one in our house, my mom told us yes, she did have one, buried somewhere in the closet with all the other board games. That closet was located in the basement. It was a small closet with a bunch of my parents' old stuff. I was pretty intrigued in using a Ouija board because I was kind of superstitious. I was able to dig through the closet without making a mess or displacing anything. Eventually, I found the old dusty box that just said Ouija on it and a planchette that moves around the board. The box was kind of falling apart on the edges, even though my mom said they've only used it once or twice. The first thing I did was text a few of my friends to come use the Ouija board with me that weekend when we'd be home alone to make it scarier. My friend Ed, who was 16, had a car, so he picked up another friend of mine, Dan, and they came right over to my house. It was already pretty late, I would say about 10 o'clock p.m. It definitely was dark outside. My parents were going to be gone for a couple of nights, and my younger brother Adam, of 12 years old, was home. So I asked him if he wanted to join as well. We were all going to play on the floor in the loft area, which was converted to my bedroom. We turned off the lights and turned on a flashlight and put it on the floor in the corner of the room, pointed toward the board. All four of us sat on one side of the board, and we held the planchette and started asking questions. We asked basic questions. I said, if there's somebody here, please move the planchette. Then, for the first time, it started to move. It slowly moved to the word yes. Adam asked, "How old are you?" And the planchette moved to the number 6, then to the number 7, 67. We looked at each other, and I suspected one of them were moving it. I'm sure the others did too. We all played along and just kept going with it. Eventually, I asked the board, "Are you a demon?" And the planchette slowly moved to the word yes. At this point, we all laughed, knowing one of us was messing around. But then, suddenly, at that moment, the flashlight turned off, and that's when all of us stopped laughing and got really scared. Who did that? Someone asked. But it was clearly none of us. You see, the flashlight was all the way in the corner of the room. I crawled over to get it and kept pressing the button to turn it back on. It wouldn't turn back on. That's when I hurried over to turn on my bedside lamp. After I turned on my lamp, that's when I saw the freaked out expressions on my friends' faces and on my brother's face as well. I told them that was the most terrifying moment for the battery to die. But also, part of me believed it wasn't a coincidence. We stopped playing after that moment, and we left my room and went to the backyard just because we all were freaked out being in the house at that moment. The scariest thought was I knew I had to sleep in that room that night. After my friends left and Adam eventually went to sleep, I went back to my room. I put the Ouija board back in the box and brought it downstairs out of my room. I just felt weird sleeping in the same room with the board that night. As soon as I turned off the light, I just tried to go to sleep right away, not sitting on my phone for an hour like I usually do. As I was starting to finally drift off and fall asleep, something in my closet fell over. I immediately rose up and looked in the direction of the closet door. I flicked on the bedside lamp and walked over to the closet. It was a small walk-in closet where I keep some of my clothes. There's a light switch on the outside of the closet that turned on the light inside the closet. I didn't want to open the closet door, so I turned the light on to the closet and just looked at the bottom of the closet door. And that's when I noticed 2 feet that casted shadows on the other side of the door. I stood still and didn't move or make a sound. I kept watching the shadows. Then they slowly moved forward, and that's when I screamed. I ran to Adam's room and I explained to him what I just saw and led him to my room to show him. When I came to my room, the light in the closet was still on, but the shadows at the bottom of the door weren't there anymore. I opened the door and there was nobody in the closet, but there was something on the floor. It was a wooden box that I made in arts and crafts class that I would put my childhood memorabilia in. It somehow fell over and the contents spilled onto the floor. There was no draft in the world that would have knocked that over. It made no sense at all. I slept in my parents' bed that night, and then the next, and for a week after that, I slept in the spare bedroom. Eventually, after a while, I did start sleeping in my own bed again, but I would never forget that night. I haven't touched a Ouija board ever since. True, scary, paranormal story number 2, the Amazon Ouija board. In October of 2016, when I was a sophomore in high school, I was in a phase where I was obsessed with everything scary and supernatural. Halloween was also coming up. I also read a lot of scary stories about Ouija boards and people's experiences with them. I finally ordered a Ouija board off of Amazon, and when it arrived, I waited till it was at night when our parents were not home to use it. I convinced my little sister to try it with me. We were at the dining room table with the lights dimmed, and both of us were holding the planchette. I asked some random questions, and my sister and I both laughed because it was kind of awkward and funny using this for the first time. I started to move the planchette around, trying to creep out my sister, but she knew it was me doing it. After a few minutes of doing this, we got bored, and my sister wanted to stop. I said, let's try just for a few more minutes. After a little bit more waiting for the planchette to move from some unseen entity, we decided to give up. After this, we both went to our rooms. That's when I got on my bed, turned off my light, and I looked up more Ouija board stories online. I kept reading people's experiences with them, and then I looked up why it didn't work for us. Other people had said their first time using Ouija boards, nothing happened either. So I decided to try it again later on that night, maybe around 2 or 3 in the morning. When my sister was already asleep, I went back down to the dining room table and dimmed the lights again. I once again tried to use the Ouija board, asking similar questions as a few hours ago, but just in a lower voice to try not to wake up my sister. I held the planchette with both hands, waiting for it to move, but it never did. Instead, I heard sounds from upstairs, like soft footsteps. I thought to myself, it could have been my sister. She might have heard me down here. The footsteps were followed by a muffled female voice, but it didn't quite sound like my sister's though, and the voice was coming from directly above me. The room above, the dining room, was our older brother's room, who was away at college. My sister wouldn't have been in there. She knows she's not allowed in that room. I was curious if my sister was playing a prank on me and made her voice to sound lower just to scare me. I went upstairs and I got to my brother's door and I put my ear up against it. That's when I was terrified to the core. What I heard gives me chills to this day. I heard the voice of an older woman. I wasn't sure how my sister could be doing a voice like that. At first, I didn't know what was being said until I realized that the voice kept saying, "Grandma's here, Georgie," over and over. That's when I realized it was the voice of my dead grandma. I felt every hair on my body stand up. It took every ounce of courage just to open the door, but I opened it, and I turned on the light, and no one was inside the room. The voice had stopped. That's when I ran to my room and shut the door and locked it. I curled up under the covers. I felt the whole room spinning as I couldn't form any rational thoughts of what just happened. It was too vivid for me to have imagined it. When I finally calmed down, I did a prayer before going to sleep. I pretty much was awake all night. Even though this was 8 years ago, I still remember this as if it was last night.